All right. Good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon from Brentwood, whenever you're listening to this. This is our Japanese section, and by now you have finished your Western Africa test. Hopefully, it was open book. Hopefully, everybody did wonderful. And now we are going to kind of focus on the Japanese islands, and we're going to start with the geography. And I've kind of have you guys working on the just kind of familiarizing yourself with the island. The first thing we're going to start off with is just looking at the basic geography. Obviously, you can see that Japan lies about 110 miles east of Korea. Because it has actually been isolated from Korea and the mainland China, it is able to actually adapt and develop its own culture. It does take a lot from Korea and Japan, but it also makes its own. Japan is made up of four main islands. It's made up of Honshu, Shikoku, Kyushu, and Hokkaido. It is very mountainous. About 70% of the land is mountainous. And there's tons of volcanoes there. It's in the major ring of fire, which is this area around the Pacific where there are a lot of volcanoes and earthquakes, and obviously tsunamis are happening because of the earthquakes. So it's a very active area just because of basic plate tectonics. So it's a very fascinating culture in that. So about 70% of the land is actually mountainous, that means that they're going to rely heavily on the sea. So Japan obviously is famous for sushi and what they can do with fish and things like that. So one of the reasons why is because for hundreds and hundreds of years they had to rely heavily on that. They also do rely on rice, and they believe that actually the rice cultivation came to Japan from Korea. Just a little bit about the Japanese creation myth. This is actually for some of you that are a little bit into Japanese anime. Last year, a few people were really into it, so you probably know more than me about Japanese creation myth, or at least anime for sure. So the myth goes that there are a brother and sister pair, Izanagi and Izanami, who dip a spear into the water. And as they pull the spear out of the water, the droplets form the islands of Japan. And there are thousands of islands in Japan. Of course, there were the four main ones that we had just mentioned. This is supposed to be a picture of the brother and sister pair. I don't know why they're dipping a spear in the water, but that's what they're doing. So there you go. This is for my anime fans as well. You have obviously the sun goddess, Amaterasu. I actually don't know how to pronounce that one. I didn't actually look that one up. Then you have Tsukiyumi, who is the moon god, and Susanoo, which I believe is actually a very important character in anime. He is known as the storm god. So Amaterasu, the sun goddess. Sorry if I'm butchering that. And Susanoo, they are brother sister, and they get in a big fight. And then Susanoo gets like pushed down to Earth or Japan, and his offspring are what become the first people or first inhabitants of Japan, essentially. So he's the storm god and the seas and everything like that. So the people of Japan are going to be Susanoo's descendants, and Amaterasu sends her grandson Ninigi, who is going to be the great great grandfather of the first Emperor Jimmu, down to rule. When Emperor Jimmu rules, he is famous for ruling. He is famous for being given a sword by Nindenji, his grandfather, his great great grandfather, and he is given a mirror and a jewel, which is actually the jade. So when you see emperors from this point on, from the first emperor of Jimmu all the way to Hirohito in World War II, they will always have these three symbols: the symbol of the sword, the symbol of the mirror, and the symbol of the the jade right there. You can see it on the right. Uh, Hirohito is the first emperor in World War II who does not claim to be a descendant of these gods. So it's kind of one of those things of like, this is where a lot of people pay respect to the Japanese emperor and empress because of this kind of idea that they are descended from these gods. Um, even still today. So early religion that you'll have is they practice Shintoism. And for those of you who like to watch Mulan, here's your chance. You can go watch Mulan. Maybe do that tonight. Shintoism is going to be, you believe that everything has a spirit. In a way, and some people might disagree with me on this, and that's totally fine. I compare it to animism, where everything has that kind of spirit with them. So they definitely worship their ancestors like they do in Mulan. And then they believe that animals also have spirits, the kami. So that would be like Mushu in Mulan. This is rare that I'll ever make this reference, but I literally just watched it 2 nights ago. So the kami is in people, animals, and non-living objects. So it kind of think as just the idea that there is a spirit in just about everything that you touch. There's like an energy. That's Shintoism. Buddhism is also going to be part of the Japanese culture, and that's going to be introduced via Korea and China. And they're going to intermingle Buddhism and Shintoism. And I know that you can read the first bullet point says Buddhism is where is kind of the dark, where Shintoism is the light. They use kind of Buddhist funerals and talking about suffering, but they also use Shintoism for life and happiness. So it's kind of a little bit of a yin and yang situation. I'm going to end there. Actually, I'm going to go back to this slide. I'm just going to end there, and I'll probably actually have you watch the crash course video as well because it just gives you a really great background. But I'll have you watch that in a few days at your leisure. Other than that, please answer some questions just so that you're kind of following along and kind of hold you accountable for that. And we will talk more about Japan and its culture in the coming days. I hope you guys are all doing well. Have a great day, night, afternoon, whichever.